Dr. Phil McGraw had been doing this for 30 years. 30 years of sitting across from families torn apart by lies. 30 years of uncovering secrets, exposing deception, confronting denial. He'd heard every variation of dishonesty. The small lies that snowballed. The big lies told to protect. The lies people convinced themselves were truth. He'd developed a radar for it. Could spot inconsistency in body language. Could hear the tremor in a voice when someone was hiding something. But that day, he wasn't prepared for what he was about to hear. The studio audience had filed in expecting another family drama. Another story of betrayal, another revelation, another tearful reconciliation or explosive confrontation. The Johnsons sat on stage. Mother. Father. 2 adult daughters. Standard family therapy setup. The kind Dr. Phil had orchestrated thousands of times. The presenting problem seemed straightforward enough. 23 years ago, the younger daughter, now 35, had accused her grandfather of inappropriate behavior. The accusation had fractured the family. Half believed her. Half didn't. The grandfather died 5 years later, never clearing his name, the family still divided. And now, decades later, they'd come to Dr. Phil hoping to find some kind of closure. Melissa, the younger daughter, sat rigid in her chair. She'd been the accuser. The one who'd spoken up at 12 years old. The one who'd torn the family apart, depending on who you asked. Her older sister, Jennifer, sat across from her. Cold. Distant. Hadn't spoken to Melissa in 15 years. The parents sat between them. Literally and figuratively. Trying to hold together what had been broken for over 2 decades. Dr. Phil started with his standard questions. Established timeline. Got everyone's version of events. Melissa maintained her story. Jennifer maintained her disbelief. The parents maintained a painful neutrality, loving both daughters, believing neither fully, stuck in an impossible position. It was all proceeding normally. Textbook family fracture case. Dr. Phil was building toward his usual intervention, family therapy recommendations, individual counseling, communication strategies. The machinery of resolution was in motion, and then Melissa said something that stopped everything. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. Her voice was different now. Smaller. Something I've never told anyone. Not my therapist. Not my husband. Not even myself, really, until recently. Dr. Phil leaned forward slightly. This was the moment. The crack in the facade. The thing that had been waiting to come out. Go ahead, he said. Melissa took a breath. The accusation I made about my grandfather. It happened. But not the way everyone thinks. The studio went quiet. Jennifer's head snapped up. The parents froze. What do you mean? Dr. Phil asked carefully. I mean it happened. But someone told me to say it. Someone told me exactly what to say. How to say it. When to say it. And I was 12. I didn't understand what I was doing. I just knew that someone I trusted told me this was important. That I needed to tell this story. That it was the truth. Dr. Phil paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. He set down his note cards. Leaned back. Studied Melissa's face. Someone told you to accuse your grandfather of abuse? Yes. Who? Melissa's eyes filled with tears. That's what I'd been trying to remember for 23 years. I blocked it out. Convinced myself it was my own memory. My own truth. But in therapy last year, things started coming back. Fragments. A conversation. A coaching session. Someone older. Someone I trusted. Someone who had reasons of their own. Jennifer stood up. This is insane. You're changing your story now? After he's dead? After you destroyed this family? Sit down, Jennifer, Dr. Phil said firmly. Not unkindly, but with authority. Jennifer sat, her face red, hands shaking. Dr. Phil looked at Melissa. Do you remember who told you to make the accusation? Melissa nodded slowly. Yes. I remembered 3 weeks ago. In a session with my therapist. It all came back. The whole conversation. Where we were. What was said. Why they wanted me to do it. Who was it? Dr. Phil asked. Melissa looked directly at her mother. The mother's face went white. No, she whispered. No, Melissa, don't. Dr. Phil's expression shifted. Not shock yet. But recognition. The pieces clicking into place. Mom, he said, turning to the mother. You want to explain this? The mother, Patricia, started crying. Not the tears of the falsely accused. The tears of someone caught. I didn't. I was trying to protect them. He was going to change his will. Leave everything to his new wife. Cut the girls out completely. I couldn't let that happen. They deserve that inheritance. So I told Melissa what to say. I thought if we could get him declared incompetent, we could stop the will change. I didn't know it would explode like this. Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. He stood up. Walked to the edge of the stage. Looked directly at the camera. Stop rolling, he said. His voice was steady, but there was steel in it. Stop the cameras right now. The red lights went dark. The audience sat in stunned silence. Dr. Phil turned back to the family. Everyone stay exactly where you are. Don't move. Don't speak. He walked off stage. The audience could hear him speaking to producers. Urgent. Quiet. Instructions being given. The family sat frozen. Patricia was sobbing. Melissa looked like she might be sick. Jennifer was staring at her mother with an expression that couldn't be named. Betrayal. Rage. Vindication. All of it at once. The father, Robert, just sat there. Silent. His world rewriting itself in real time. Dr. Phil came back on stage. Sat down. Gestured to the control room. Turn them back on. The cameras came alive. Dr. Phil looked at Patricia. What you just admitted to is a crime. You coached a child to make a false accusation of sexual abuse. You destroyed your father's reputation. You fractured your family. You traumatized your daughter. And you did it for money. Patricia couldn't speak. Just cried. Dr. Phil turned to Melissa. You were 12 years old. You were manipulated by someone you trusted. What happened is not your fault. Do you understand that? Melissa nodded, tears streaming. I've been carrying this guilt for 23 years. Thinking I destroyed Grandpa. Thinking I was a liar. Thinking I was broken. You're not broken, Dr. Phil said firmly. You were used. By your own mother. That's not your shame to carry. He turned to Jennifer. And you. You stopped speaking to your sister 15 years ago because you thought she lied about your grandfather. Were you close to him? Jennifer nodded. He was my favorite person in the world. When Melissa accused him, I had to choose. I chose him. And then he died thinking half his family believed he was a monster. And I blamed Melissa for that every single day. But it wasn't Melissa, Dr. Phil said quietly. No, Jennifer whispered, looking at her mother with an expression that would haunt the studio for years. It wasn't. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil pulled out his phone. Right there on stage. Called someone? I need you to come to the studio. Now. Yes, it's urgent. He hung up. Looked at the family. I've called our legal consultant. Because what we're dealing with here isn't just family therapy. It's potential criminal behavior. Patricia looked up, panicked. What are you saying? I'm saying that depending on the statute of limitations in your state, what you did, coaching a minor to make false allegations, could still be prosecutable. I'm not a lawyer. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is just a family issue. This is serious. The audience was completely silent. This had gone beyond typical Dr. Phil drama. This was real consequence playing out in real time. The legal consultant arrived during commercial break. Spoke with Patricia privately. When they came back, Patricia's face was ashen. The consultant whispered something to Dr. Phil, then left. Dr. Phil looked at the camera. We've been advised that due to the statute of limitations, criminal charges are unlikely. But that doesn't make what happened okay. It doesn't erase the damage. He turned to Robert, who hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. Dad, you've been very quiet. What's going through your mind? Robert looked at his wife. I don't know who you are. I thought I'd been married to you for 40 years. But the person I married wouldn't have done this. Wouldn't have used our daughter. Wouldn't have destroyed her father. I don't know what to do with this. Patricia reached for him. He moved away. Not dramatically. Just shifted. Created space. Physical distance that represented the chasm that had just opened. Dr. Phil pulled out a business card. Handed it to Melissa. This is a trauma therapist who specializes in parental manipulation and childhood abuse. Because what your mother did was abuse. Psychological abuse. And you need help processing that. He pulled out another card. Gave it to Jennifer. This is a family therapist. Because you and your sister have 15 years of estrangement to unpack. And it's not going to be easy. But at least now you know the truth. At least now you can rebuild from a foundation of reality instead of lies. He looked at Robert. And you need individual counseling. To figure out what you want to do with your marriage. That's not my call. But you deserve support while you make it. Then he looked at Patricia. And you need help. Deep, intensive therapy. To understand why you thought destroying your daughter's childhood and your father's legacy was acceptable. To figure out how you lived with this for 23 years. To decide if you want to be someone different going forward. But what happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming. Melissa stood up. Walked over to her sister. Jennifer looked up uncertain. And Melissa hugged her. Just wrapped her arms around her and held on. Jennifer resisted for maybe 2 seconds. Then she broke. Sobbed. Hugged back. 23 years of separation dissolved in 30 seconds of contact. The audience was crying. The camera operators were crying. Even Dr. Phil's eyes were wet. The sisters held each other. And into the microphone, barely audible, Melissa said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you lost him thinking I'd lied. I'm so sorry. And Jennifer said back, It wasn't you. It wasn't you. I'm sorry I blamed you. I'm sorry I left you alone. They stood there. Center stage. Holding each other. While their mother watched what her lie had cost. While their father processed what his wife had done. While millions of people watching at home witnessed what truth, even painful truth, could create. Dr. Phil let them have the moment. Didn't rush it. Didn't force resolution. Just let two sisters who'd lost each other find their way back. When they finally separated, when they sat back down, this time next to each other instead of across, Dr. Phil spoke. This family has a long road ahead. There's no quick fix here. Patricia, you owe your daughters more than an apology. You owe them years of honesty. Years of repair. And you may never get full forgiveness. That's the consequence of what you did. He turned to Melissa and Jennifer. You two have each other back. That's not nothing. That's everything. Don't waste it. The show ended not with applause, but with silence. Sacred silence. The kind that holds truth too heavy for noise. 6 months later, Dr. Phil received a letter. From Melissa and Jennifer. They'd visited their grandfather's grave together. Read him a letter explaining what had really happened. Told him they knew the truth now. That they were sorry. That they loved him. Patricia entered therapy. The marriage didn't survive. Some fractures can't be repaired, but two sisters who'd lost 23 years found each other again. And learn that sometimes the worst lies come from the people who are supposed to protect you. And sometimes the truth, no matter how late, can still set you free.